Merry Christmas! I am Kate Sculpts, and today marks the final sculpting video of the year. For this festive season, I wanted to make a little family of mice enjoying dinner together on Christmas Day, so that's what I did. I hope you're ready, and let's get started. As per usual, I start off with a sheet of foil to make the base, which I'm going to use to place the table and the little mice on. I also use some metal wire to make sure that it's stable, as in the past I have used bases which are just foil and it kind of ended up being a little flimsy and was very difficult to place things on. It doesn't really make a difference to the end product after it's baked, but I like to do it just to make sure that it's stable while I'm working with it. I coat it in some clay, of course, and then I begin to make the top of the table, making some wire bent into the sort of rectangular shape that you would find, and then making some table legs. Usually, when doing this kind of thing, I would make table legs that are all separate, but instead I decided to make kind of them in two, connected actually, which made them a little bit more stable so they kind of weren't as flimsy, which is good, you know. I've been doing this for a year, on YouTube at least, and I've finally gotten to grips with doing armature a little bit better than I used to, of course. Then I coat it with clay, and to make the legs, I actually roll out little pieces of clay and smush them down. Usually what I do is I cut down the side of the clay and then kind of smush it around the metal wire, but this time I decided to kind of flatten it down on top, and it actually worked okay. I used to think that it didn't really work very well, but now I think it does. Using my knife, I then cut the table legs to make them a little bit more square, and then I shave off some of the area around it, especially on this kind of front leg here, to make it almost look like it's been chewed away and broken, and then also cut off a little bit of it so that it's obviously shorter and unbalanced, so that I can place a book under it later on. Using this sort of sharp-ish ball tool that's kind of on the end of another ball tool, I scrape into the clay to make the generic, wood texture that I would usually make for this kind of thing. The underside of the table will not be very visible, so I did a little bit of texturing, but in the end it's not really going to be that important. Then I just make the little book. This is kind of the first little thing that I had to do for this sculpture, and this kind of put it into perspective of how difficult it was going to be to make the whole Christmas dinner on top of the table. Then, to make the tablecloth, I have to roll some clay actually very thin, to the point where I had to re-roll it about 5 times because it ripped every single time I cut into it and then picked it up. It would just kind of split, and I didn't really want that, of course. I wanted it to all be together. And then place it on top of the table, and using this sort of sharpish pointy tool just so that I can kind of get into those little crevices to fold the clay to kind of make it look like foil. Then, kind of similar to how I made the top of the table, I fold some, well not fold, but I bend some metal wire into a square and then attach more metal wire for legs of course, a chair. As there are going to be 4 mice, I have to make 4 chairs, and I make them all slightly differently because in the end I want this to kind of look very put together, but not in a formal way, but more of, a Christmas scene that mice would actually, do. But, since mice can't really do that, I mean, will they? Probably not. But I'm completely waffling. I very much doubt that you can even understand what the hell I'm talking about, but yeah, I make 4 chairs. Some of them are a little bit more damaged than others, but they're all roughly the same. Some of them are slightly different with how they're kind of formed, but, I do want it to not look too convoluted, so I do them all relatively similar. Of course, I then also need to make the back of the chair, which was out of the whole, parts of the chairs, I think the back was probably the hardest because of how just ridiculously thin it was. It was kind of almost as thin as the tablecloth, which of course I said ripped about 5 times during the making of it, and considering the fact that I had to make 4 of these, backs of the chairs, I can't remember what they're called. Yeah, chair backs, whatever. It got very difficult. But to make it a little bit easier, I did use some metal wire just to help stabilise them, make sure that they aren't as flimsy. Now, this is a great example of a little detail that I'll do, and then you won't be able to see it. I made a little cushion on the chair, or all chairs. You can't see it in the end, of course, because the mouse's fat butts are sitting on them. Then onto the mice. This first mice, it took me like 2 tries to do because I used a little bit too much foil underneath and it just ended up looking way too big for the chair. But in the end, you know, went back, made it a little bit smaller foil. Then I go in, blending the little thighs, the arms and the head, and then of course, like you saw on screen, probably if you were looking, don't blame you if you weren't, I did lose a bit of footage, so of course this one skips a little bit, but considering the fact that we have 4 mice to go over, I don't think it really matters that much. I'm not going to tell you exactly what I'm doing for the tail yet, but you might have been able to see in the thumbnail. I don't know, I haven't made the thumbnail yet, you know. It's currently 6 o'clock on Christmas Eve. Hopefully I can post this around 7:30, but you know, I'm cutting it tight. I haven't made the thumbnail yet. You know. I'll explain what I'm doing with the tail later. This is the only mice that has a sander hat on because I kind of want it to be sort of the head of the family. Out of all 4 mice, this one is probably, I don't know, because, you know, I have a family of 4, mum, dad, my sister and me. I'd say this one's most like my mum. This is the mum mouse. Then, you know, I'm the little chubby one eating all the food. Because that is, in fact, me on Christmas Day. Don't tell me, you know, don't tell me that you aren't that mouse as well, okay? Look, it's Christmas. I'm allowed to stuff my face with as much food as I want. It's that time of the year, you know? I want to get I'm not gonna say that. Anyways, enough rambling on. Like I did with the table and the chair and all the wood stuff, I scrape in to the mice to make it look like a furry little thing. Then onto the second mouse. This one's going to look a little bit happier. This one is actually going to be kind of not fighting, but doing a little Christmas cracker with the one that I just made before it. So it'll look quite happy, you know, cute little mouse sitting kind of almost back in his chair, kind of leaning back, trying to pull the Christmas cracker from the other mouse's hand. To add on its arms and legs and tail, I mean, I don't usually use metal wire for arms and legs, but the tail, of course, I use wire and then just, you know, detail it. But yeah, the arms and legs, I avoid using foil, metal wire, because it just kind of gets in the way, and especially if you want to reposition things, it can really just get tedious. So I prefer to stay away from using foil for limbs, especially on, you know, small things. If it's something bigger, of course, I'm going to use, you know, foil or even metal wire. But yeah, it's too small for that. This one is the me mouse, the little me one, the one that's going to be me. It's going to be having its cheeks stuffed with food, its plate full of food. I did initially make it, you know, 2 chubby cheeks, but then I scraped off one and just made it kind of 1 cheek that's full of food. And to make the paws, I know I haven't really explained it, but I kind of just cut in it and then kind of separate them, make it look like 4 little paws. And then this is going to be the drunk mouse, you know, chugging some juice. Yeah, juice. Chugging juice, nothing else. You know, pouring it into his mouth. I think this might be one of my favourite mice. I guess, you know, the fact that it has such big ears just makes it look quite cute. Also, all of the mice get their little, you know, paper hats that you would get in Christmas crackers. Then to work on the base, it's just going to be like wood flooring. I've done it before in lots of different sculptures. One that's coming off my mind right now is the Other Mother, if you've seen that. I mean, it's a pretty good sculpture. I think it's fan favourite, but yeah. So again, I don't think I really have to explain this, but I might as well. I scrape into the floor to make it look like wood. I do add some little swirly patterns just to kind of look like that sort of grain in the wood, you know, when it's swirly sometimes. I do like that look of wood, you know, when you do like the little swirlies. It's kind of cute. Now, I should have textured the tablecloth before I put it on the table, but the fact that I had kept dripping it and then I put it on the table, I didn't want to take it off again and have to redo it, so I just kind of did it and textured it while it was on the table. It made it a bit difficult when getting to the sides because they were hanging. I didn't really want to rip it, but I just kind of put my finger under it and I could roughly get the texture on there. Some points I did kind of miss it a little bit. The tablecloth is going to be patchwork of different textures, different fabrics, and different colours, which I will show you later on. I then make about, I think it was about 8 Christmas crackers, of course, four green and 4 red. To make them, I just get little lines of clay like this, cutting kind of 4 kind of corners, flattening or splitting the areas, you know, making it look like little Christmas crackers, and then I texture it with that tool because it, you know, gives that kind of I mean, Christmas crackers are kind of flat, they don't really have much texture, but for the sake of it, I'm giving this one texture. Doesn't matter. This one is going to be open, so, you know, I cut off one side so that it can be thrown about somewhere. I then make 2 paint cans. I wonder what that's for, but I will show you that later on. One of them is going to be spilled with some paint kind of flowing out the side, and this is going to be kind of near the back, kind of out of the way. You won't really be able to see it, but it will be kind of, you know, visible. Then I have to make the plates. This is going to be the big plate, the big one with the chicken on it. And I say chicken, it could be a turkey, you know, it's up to interpretation. However, at Christmas I have chicken specifically. I don't think I've ever had turkey on Christmas, so we usually have chicken. But, of course, it could be a turkey as well. That's going to be, yeah, the biggest plate, the long one. Is also going to have some little leaves, and also later on I'll add also some carrots underneath. I chop one of the kind of chicken legs off and I'm going to throw that on the ground later on. I also cut a little piece kind of off the top of the chicken just to make it look like it's been cut into, even though all of the plates have a lot more chicken on them than it looks to have been cut off. Let's just say that they had another chicken. They are chubby mice. Also, you know, considering the fact that mice are so small, I don't know how they got a chicken that small. You know, I've never seen a chicken that's smaller than a mouse before. No. Maybe they're life-size. I mean, not life-size. Maybe they're human-sized mice. Who's to judge? Not me. I'm not judging. They can be big mice. Just imagine you have a little mouse hole in your house and this is what's going on. You have a family of mice having Christmas dinner together. Wouldn't that just be adorable? Don't tell me it isn't. Like, there are so many people that don't like mice. I love mice. How can you not love mice? Why am I rambling on? Anyways, to make the other food, of course, like I said, I make the carrots and some of the leaves to go on the chicken. And now I'm making the potatoes. Just little balls of clay that I kind of cut in half, also kind of roughening out the edges like this, giving them some texture, and then I pile them onto the plate. I then also make some extra later for the other plates that I'm going to make. I'll show you that in a minute. And now then I go on to make the pigs in blankets. One of my favourite things to eat when having Christmas dinner. I love them. Never have enough of them, but I just love them, you know. It's all about cramming as much meat as you can into one little area. Of course, because they're so small, I do have to, you know, leave some of the texture out, so all I do is make little lines of clay, then wrap them in some more clay. Then, of course, because there's 4 mice, there are going to be 4 plates of food, and they're all going to be assorted slightly differently to the different mice's tastes. So one of them can have, say, some turkey, maybe some what they call pigs in blankets, some peas and carrots, and another one will have Brussels sprouts and other stuff, because my brain is slow today. You know, it's Christmas Eve. I get to that's my excuse. Okay. Then, using some clay glue, I layer everything onto the table, and of course the mice sitting around it. That second mice, kind of next to that first one, its tail is actually going to be wrapped around one of the table legs. Did I say table? I mean, its tail is going to be wrapped around one of the table legs. I don't know if I did say that or not. My brain is tricking me. And of course, the paint cans are going to be right behind them as well. Again, I will explain it once I'm on the painting process. Then I think pretty much the final detail is the presents that are going to be scattered about the floor. To make them is I just kind of get a block of clay, cut it so that it has slightly sharper edges, and then wrap it in some thinner clay to make it look like a ribbon and a little bow on top. Of course, I do them all different shapes and sizes. Some are really small, some are really big, some are long, some are kind of stubby and tall, you know, all different, you know, sizes, because having all presents that look the same is boring, so might as well do them all different sizes. This one's one of the really chunky ones. I think this might be one of the heavier ones, the thicker ones of the bunch. I then lay them out kind of like that, and then I have to take them all off, put glue on the bottom, and then place them back into place, just so that I can roughly get them into the right place and balance the kind of amount in areas right before actually committing and gluing them down with the clay glue. And then I bake it, of course, in the oven for about 25, half an hour-ish, just to you know, bake it. Don't really want to burn it. I kind of bake it for a different amount of time every single time, you know, of course depending on how thick the clay is, but I'm never really consistent. Anyways, the first kind of step is to paint the wood kind of browns. Of course the floor a darker brown, the chairs a slightly lighter, more orangey brown, and then once that paint is dried I go and dry brush, which is when you have a little bit of paint on the brush and then you just gently glide it over some texture to bring out that texture with a different colour. Then on the table I paint it a base coat of white, and then after that's dried I go in and do the patchwork. There are only 4 colours that I use, of course different tones and brightnesses of the different colours, but it's mostly just green, kind of pinkish red, yellow and blue. And you know, the different patches, the different textures have different colours and patterns on them as well. So, you know, you've got some blue ones, some of them are kind of just dry brushed so that the white is kind of peeking through. Of course you have the green ones, which are just lines. The yellow ones kind of have a base coat of a lighter yellow and then a darker yellow on top. And then I just go in with black and add these little kind of lines between each of the colours of patchwork and you know, different textures and areas on the table to make it look like the mice kind of hand sewn it all together. How cute. It's a little family tablecloth. We love that. Then I paint the mice a base coat of this sort of lightish grey, and then as that's drying I go onto the presents, which of course this one is going to be red, but then I go in with different colours for different types, and also the ribbons are also going to be different on each one. So you know, some of them are going to have white dots all over, like this one, kind of make it look kind of cute, almost like kind of how I do mushrooms. If you've seen my mushroom videos, you know, have a bunch of teeny tiny little white dots all over the red. And then, you know, also other ones have the white dots as well. I think three of the red ones have these white dots, and then the other red ones have sort of brown, black and a few white lines to make it look almost like it's I think tartan is the name of that kind of look. I think it's tartan, at least. I might be completely wrong, but you know, it looks like that in the end. And then for those ones that I just described, I go in with a green ribbon with some gold kind of highlighting on the top. Then the red spotty ones will have just pure gold ribbon. When using gold, you're going to want a black undercoat, not a white. For most, you know, most colours you would use white underneath if you want it to really pop. But with metallics like gold, silver, bronze, copper, whatever, you want black underneath. Trust me. Because usually when you have metallic paints, they are a lot more thin, they're a lot more watered down, so having black underneath actually just ends up making it really look like metal. Trust me. Of course not metal, but you know, metallic. Of course, you know, the ribbons on top of a present aren't metal. I don't know what I'm rambling on about. The green ones have gold spots, the blue ones have white spots, kind of looks like snowflakes. Then back to the mice, I dry brush again. A little bit of paint on your brush, gently going over the textures to bring out those textures. I go over most of the body except for the stomach, leaving it a little bit lighter. And then on some other areas I go even darker, like the kind of front of the face, the back, the thighs, the kind of paws of each of the mice. Of course, changing it up very slightly between the mice to make them slightly different from each other. And of course, the nose and the ears are also this sort of very, very muted kind of pink. Each of them, the 3 mice here, have different coloured hats. One blue, one gold, and one red. You know, of course, similar to how you would find in Christmas crackers. Then, of course, I start painting the Santa hat, but then I have to wait because I have a white ready, and I need to start painting with the white because I don't want to wait. I don't want the white to dry out, so I have to use the white straight away. Of course, don't want to waste paint. I say with a giant paint palette full of paint. Which I actually tried to clean and ended up putting a knife almost through my thumb. Well, it did actually go through my thumb, but not all the way. Got a little bit of a cut. You'll see later on. Actually, wait, no, you might have already seen it. Right at the beginning of the painting, I had a plaster on my thumb because I put a bloody knife through my thumb. Also, almost went through my nail. I know you don't care, but I care because it hurt. So I'm gonna tell. Anyways, the paint cans that I was talking about earlier, I told you I had a very specific idea for the tails. Because rat tails have those sort of lines on them, or mice tails, rat tails, whatever, have those sort of lines and sections on them, I decided to make it candy cane coloured, as if the mice painted them themselves, hence the little buckets of paint. So, you know, they're not perfect. It does look like they have just been painted on by the mice, so, you know, they are slightly messy. But, again, that's the idea. The mice painted them on to make them look very Christmassy for Christmas. Of course, there is actually a lot of gold in this sculpture. Lots and lots of gold paint. So the Christmas crackers, of course, have those sort of patchworky lines in gold. Then onto the food. Oof. Oof. Now, when I say this is tedious, it was bloody tedious. But you'll see at the end, you know, when I do the little zoom-ins, ooh, it looks actually like food and I want to eat it. And you can see just how tiny it is. I don't even know how I did that. I'm not good at tiny things, but it's mostly just basic shapes like circles. So, you know, it wasn't that difficult. The only difficult part was painting it because I had to paint the base colour of the foods and then do dry brushing on top, and it kept like overlapping. Like green got onto brown areas, orange got onto white areas. It got very annoying, but you know, in the end, after going back and doing the touch-ups, and also, as you saw, the potatoes, giving them that sort of, not burnt, but crispy look on them with a slightly dark paint, kind of on the corners. Yeah, I did go back and make sure to touch up any detail that I may have inevitably screwed up, pretty much. Then, of course, I go in and do the chicken. Now this, what I did right here, you'll see, just right at the end, the final detail was I went in and added gravy. Obviously not real gravy, but I mixed gloss glaze with some brown paint and it made it look like gravy. It dried very glossy and it was quite thin. So it actually ended up, yeah, looking like gravy, and oh my gosh. Anyways, I am so thankful you watched until the end. Oh my gosh, I never shut up. This has been an absolutely amazing year, and in almost 12 months, I have grown to over 900 subscribers, and I am incredibly thankful of you all, and of course everyone else who's watched my videos along the way, even if they aren't subscribed, you know, it's still helping me out. Let me know what you think. And if you really did enjoy it, feel free to subscribe, of course. No pressure, but if you want to, it's there, as I have a lot of similar stuff to this, and would also like... Oh my gosh, I screwed that up. Would also be greatly appreciated too. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and oh my gosh, I hope to see you next year as well. I do have one more video left for the year, okay? It's not a sculpting video, but it is to do with sculptures. Potentially old sculptures. Pre-Kate sculptures. In fact, I have been sculpting for just over 4 years now, and I can tell you it's been a long 4 years, and I have grown, and you will see that in my next video. Look out for that on around the 31st. But anyways, as I said, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. See you next time. Bye bye.